Welcome back to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. I'm Ellis Nordhoff, and today I'm here for the opposition view. It's Luton Town versus Everton at Kenilworth Road, and I'm joined by Finley from the Oak Road Hatter podcast. How are we doing, Finley?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm looking forward to the game this weekend. It's not the relegation clash they wanted it to be, but it's still a massive game for us. And obviously, you guys will be hoping to continue your form.
Definitely. It was billed to be this big relegation decider, wasn't it? They moved it to the Friday night. They made it this big occasion, and now Everton somehow are safe. Last time I did an opposition view was quite a few games ago now, and suddenly Everton are safe. So, Blues that are watching, I'm sure you're feeling way more relaxed now. One mad week where we got 3 wins in a row, which is just completely unheard of, and just tells the whole tale of Everton's season, really. A great purple patch, then a terrible run, and then another great run as well. And it's a massive game for you guys, though, and that's what we're going to talk about first. So, Luton are still embroiled in this relegation battle, still a few games to play, points to be played for, and you need to win this one, don't you?
We do, yeah. We've had the opportunity in our hands for a few weeks on the bounce to just pick up a result and just make a little bit of a step away from the relegation zone, and we've just not been able to do it. The win against Bournemouth was massive, but it's just not coincided with Forest dropping points. And then the other problem we've now got is obviously Burnley starting to catch us. They're only 1 point off us now. So it's all three of us could potentially be battling out on the final day. So every game is huge for us, and we just desperately need to pick up a win.
That's it, isn't it? And there's so much uncertainty down there now as well. We might find out today, tomorrow about Nottingham Forest's appeal verdict. So that's another thing that if they get 2 points back, suddenly you'll feel like you've been plunged even deeper into the battle, I suppose. And that's been the story of the whole season for all the relegation teams, hasn't it? Everton have had 8 points deducted, but it was 10 at one point, and it's been changed multiple times. And how's that felt as a Luton fan when you're seeing teams around you like Luton, like Nottingham Forest and Everton getting hit with these points deductions, but not actually knowing where you stand?
It is really frustrating. Obviously, you can look at it one way, whereas a Luton fan, points deductions were a massive damage. They did huge damage to our club back in obviously a few years ago now, and that's part of the reason we were relegated so far down out of the football league in the end. But when you're there and you're trying to work out how you're competing with these other teams, and you're desperately trying to pick up points, but you don't know potentially until this season's even finished where you'll be and what the points on the other teams will be and how many they would have taken away or potentially given back as well through appeal. I think it's just been handled so poorly by the Premier League, and I think probably you guys probably think the same, and I know Forest fans think the same. It's just the way it's been handled, so almost unprofessional. It's just there's so many people that impacts relegation from the Premier League. Obviously, at the clubs, you've got a lot of people relying on the clubs being up for their jobs to be kept, and obviously on the pitch as well, and the fans as well. And then for the Premier League to decide that they're going to basically decide the league by points deductions at times, it's really frustrating. It means one week we think we're safe, then the next week we're not safe, and then it just changes every week. So it's so uncertain.
Yeah, I suppose you've got to think as if they haven't even happened. I know Rob Edwards has said a few times that he's playing the league as if everyone's got all the points back. And I suppose you can't really do that, but it's a good mindset to have. And it's the whole focusing on yourself mindset, isn't it? And that's what you've got to do in a relegation battle. And the thing is, whatever Nottingham Forest remaining results are, you just need to make sure that you win all your games. Really, that's the goal, isn't it? Even though that's unlikely, that's got to be the goal. And for you to do that is what's going to keep you in the league. And obviously, recently your form hasn't been fantastic. A disappointing defeat to Wolves, and before that, battered at Brentford. Really, which I thought when I saw that, I was like, wow. Could this be it for Luton? Is the tiredness really starting to set in, and is it going to catch up with them? And then the Wolves game, it's just I suppose you just got outmuscled in the midfield, really. Players like Mario Lamina, who did really well, and to then get beat there again. Are you losing belief a bit, or do you feel reinvigorated in time for this big clash on Friday night?
It's a difficult one to tell in terms of as fans. I wouldn't say we're losing belief, but it's getting to the point where are these points coming from? We're really starting to get quite concerned now. There were stages in the season where we looked like we might stay up fairly comfortably. Obviously, we beat you guys away from home for our first away win, and that was massive. And then we went on a little run, sort of December, January time, and then we just got hit by so many injuries, and it's just had a massive impact on the way we play. Look, the big ones, we lost so many centre backs as well all throughout the season. Obviously, losing Lockyer was massive for the club and the impact as a whole. But I thought the players actually came together really well after that, and we started picking up a few results. But then we had at one stage we had coaches having to join in training sessions, and they were picking up injuries just because there just wasn't enough people to train.
Yeah.
So I guess the results have sort of come about as because players are getting tired because it's the same players having to play almost 90 minutes every week. But we're starting to get a few of those players back now. Adebayo came back against Wolves, and he looked pretty promising when he came on. Like he was a real threat, and he was making those runs, which is what we love to see. So getting a few of those players back is so important for us, and I think it is. I mean, we've got to see it as we have to pick up 3 points, I guess, on Friday.
Am I right in thinking that Tom Lucky might be back for this game as well?
There's a very little chance he'll play again this
Right.
season.
Oh,
Obviously,
really?
it's all down to sort of the doctors and the professionals. And if he plays again, I'll be surprised as a footballer. His main focus right now has just been on his health and stuff. And his partner's had a baby recently, so
Right.
I don't think he's as much as we'd love to see him play. We don't want him risking his health even
That's the main
more to
thing,
play.
isn't it? Just his health is the priority, and every Evertonian wishes him all the best as well. But it's great to see Adebayo back now for you guys too. It's you need this personnel, don't you, going into the final few games. Obviously, Carlton Morris has done a brilliant job up front as well. I think he's on 10 goals now for the season, isn't he? And we've not got a player on double figures for goals, so he's done really well there, and he's scored important goals as well. Do you think he'll be really important on Friday?
Morris is, yeah, he's been huge. Obviously, he's been with Adebayo injured and then losing Chio Bene as well. He's been pretty isolated up front on his own for a number of weeks now, and he's still managed to get a few goals in the process. And obviously, yeah, hitting 10 goals is huge for him. And you saw when he scored that winner against Bournemouth a few weeks ago, he just sort of broke down with emotion, like overcome by it. So it
Yeah.
clearly means so much to him to be able to play and score in the Premier League as well. But Eli being back is absolutely huge. He looked like our big goal threat before he got injured. He was coming up with some massive goals. He obviously scored that hat trick against Brighton as well. And I think if we have him and Morris firing, they can be really dangerous, particularly where your wide areas are a little light at the moment because of injuries. I think if we get crosses into the box for either of them, that's a real threat.
But you're going to have to get out of, aren't you? You've got the game to win, so you've got to really take the game to Everton. And I suppose Everton don't have that same pressure now being safe. So the thing is that you've left so many gaps this season when you have gone forward, and especially recently, you've looked so open at times, and it seems like you do all this work trying to go forward, but on transition you get beat every time, and it just undoes all the good work that you do going forward. So I think you'd have to be wary of that as well. But the wide, the wings, especially for Everton, obviously we are light at the minute with players. We have got a lot of injuries. Mikalenko's now out for the season as well. And in the derby, we actually saw Ashley Young playing at left back, and seeing a 39-year-old playing at fullback is obviously something that opponents are going to target. That's bound to happen. And Ben Godfrey on the other side has been playing right back for us, and he's a centre back. So that just shows the lack of options that we've got at the minute. So it's something that you definitely should be targeting. And one player that we have to talk about who could unlock the Everton defence is someone who isn't very popular amongst Evertonians, Ross Barkley. He's come to Luton this year and just had an unbelievable season and almost reinvented himself. And I would say it was great to see if I actually liked him, but a lot of Evertonians have got a bit of bad feeling. And if he came back to us next year, I might be able to warm to him again. But he's just been great this season. And surely, regardless of what happens to Luton, he'll be playing for a Premier League club next season.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. The way he came in out of nowhere, no one, there was no rumours about him coming to Luton at all. It was just one day, oh, he's just signed for Luton. And we were like, this is incredible. We've never signed a player like Ross Barkley before. Obviously, for as long as I've followed Luton, we've been sort of down and around in the EFL and then dropping down. But he turned up and then he struggled a bit in his first couple of games. And then after that, he just clicked. And he has been absolutely unbelievable. He's playing in that slightly deeper role to where he played before. And he looks like a player transformed. He's controlling games. He looks so composed. And he looks really mature in the way he's playing, which is probably not something you saw when he was at Everton because he was much more attacking and he had a lot more freedom to do whatever he
Yeah,
wanted.
I
But
think that
sitting in
that's
that
the difference,
midfield,
isn't it?
yeah, where he's been at times this season, he's been the only fully fit first choice midfielder we've had available. And he's barely missed a minute for us since he came into the team. And it's just, yeah, Luton fans absolutely adore him. And whether he's with us or not next season, he'll 100% be playing Premier League football next year.
It's so interesting to see him further back because, like you said, at Everton, he was more that number 10. He was doing fantastically in 2013-14 time under Roberto Martinez, and he ended up leaving. And it's a player we look at now and think we could do with a player of that quality. And seeing him actually sitting further back in that deeper position and controlling games a bit more, that just shows the maturity that he's gained. And he's almost wasted a few years at Chelsea, really, but he does look a player who's grown, and he really is the man, isn't he, for Luton when he's there? He's the one who creates everything. And I would never have trusted him in a midfield too, but the fact that you've got five at the back probably just gives him that bit extra cover. And maybe if you had more numbers, you could perhaps see him in a three with Nakamba and Lokonga, perhaps. Is that something that could have happened?
We'd have loved to have seen that, but just unfortunately, we've never had a stage this season where we've had all three of them available at the same time.
So
So first we
unlucky,
had
isn't it?
Nakamba playing, and then he got injured, and then we had Lokonga come in, and he got injured for a period. And the only one that's been consistent is Barkley, and he's just been in there. And as I said before, yeah, he's been controlling games, but I think he's just been sort of given that responsibility by Edwards, and he's spoken about how much he's enjoying playing his football again, which is, I guess, that makes a huge difference. He went to Chelsea, it didn't really work out. He went to Villa, he went to Nice, and it sort of disappeared off the radar a little bit. And then yeah, he's just come back, and everyone's talking about him. And we've all been saying most of the season that he should probably be in consideration for that England squad.
Yeah, I think it's something that should definitely be talked about. There's a lot of players in that position who are strong, aren't they? Obviously, Madison isn't really even getting a look in. You've got Foden as well. But when he's putting in performances like that, you just think if he was a few years younger and he hadn't wasted those years and he was delivering those kind of performances, you'd be talking about big moves. Whereas when he leaves Luton, well, if he leaves Luton, you'll probably be thinking if you guys stay up, he might renew with you. He might come to us. It'll be that kind of like mid-table Premier League team that he'll be looking at. But I think he's going to be the story of the game on Friday. I'm sure Sky Sports will be talking a lot about how he could influence the game. But back to Everton now, obviously Ross Barkley's boyhood club. How do you see the game going? And do you think that there's a way that you could unlock this Everton defence, which is actually one of the best defences in the league? Only the top three have got a better defensive record than Everton. And of course, Jordan Pickford's now second in the Golden Glove, 12 clean sheets. So it's quite a tough task to break through our defence at the moment.
Yeah, you look really, really solid defensively, which is at times this season. I don't think anyone would have been saying that. But yeah, you're hard to break down, and I can see it being a real backs against the wall performance from Everton. Well, Luton just continue to attack and attack. I think a lot of it may depend if Chio Ogbene is back. There's a few rumours circulating that he could be back, and we just don't know at the moment. Edwards will go into a press conference and say, "Oh, they're not back yet," and then they'll be starting like
Really?
what happened against Brentford with Osho and Lokonga. So they went from not being in the squad at all to starting the game, and we celebrate that like a goal outside the stadium. Um, if Ogbene's back and you've got Ashley Young on that side, that could be a real problem area. He's just so fast. And then you've got Doherty on the other side, on the other side, and just whipping those balls into Eli and to Morris as well. I think that is where the problems can come from. But with Tarkovsky and Branthwaite in there, they're two very dominant defenders in the air. So I think set pieces will be important. They've been important for us all season, and we've made set pieces count against you this season as well. So it's just whether we can really get clicking like we were earlier in the season, or whether we sort of have to break you down and be a bit more tactical. It's difficult to tell.
You'd hope that Everton don't concede another set piece against Luton because that was the thing going into the games at Goodison. I was saying, well, just do not concede a set piece to them, and then it was two pretty quick goals, wasn't it, in the league game, and it's just devastating. And then of course the game in the cup when Coley Woodrow popped up, it's set pieces galore that you've scored against us, and that shouldn't happen with the size of Everton's defenders and the physicality of them. So if we can see from a set piece, I'd be fuming. But Ogbene is definitely the one I'd be most worried about if he does come in on. I imagine he'd play maybe right wing back perhaps instead of Hashioka. And then you've got him on one side, Doughty on the other. That's a lot of pace to get in behind our defence. And if Ogbene targets Young, then you'll definitely get some joy there. Young's a clever older defender, but he's not got the pace. And sometimes he has to bring a player down and take that booking. And then once you're on a booking against someone as quick as Ogbene, you can be in a bit of trouble. So I can see that's how you'd get past us. With Everton, it's just we've got to deliver a performance that shows that we're not on the beach, we're not done with this season, and there are points to play for, but there's also places to play for Everton. We can still catch Brentford. We can still, well, we're above Brentford right now, and we can catch Crystal Palace, and it's worth just going for it for Everton because obviously we're in financial trouble and every place in the Premier League's worth a couple of million. So we've got to keep at it. And I'd be disappointed if we went to Luton and just seemed like we weren't really trying because I feel like the players owe us a good end to the season after a really difficult patch in between. But I'm just glad it doesn't matter quite as much as it does for you guys. But do you reckon that if you win this one, you will be able to stay up? Do you think this is the deciding one for you guys?
It all depends on the results for the other teams, obviously. With Burnley and Forest playing each other on the final day of the season, that could really be the one that decides it. But for us, we just need to win every game possible and get just better the results of the other two sides in all of those games and just keep ticking away. And we just need to put in a performance and actually win a game as well. It's not just about playing well. We've played well in a lot of games this season, especially against the big six clubs, and we've just not managed to win. So if we can get a result, it will be absolutely massive for the relegation fight.
If you lose, is it done? Would you say?
I wouldn't say it's done, but it's unlikely. I think it's a lot. It gets a lot more difficult, particularly if Burnley pick up a point, for example, or if Forest get something at Sheffield United.
Yeah.
So it's probably a must-win for us. Whereas I'm sure Sean Dyche sees it as a bit of a must-win to get a bit of revenge on us for the rest how the season's gone at Goodison, because they were probably my two favourite away days in the league. I loved coming to Goodison Park. It's a proper old ground, but we desperately need to get a result.
They were terrible days for us. I'm glad you enjoyed it at Goodison. There's only one season left there now as well, but those two, we have to rectify that. We can't be losing three in one season to a promoted side. Whoever the promoted side is, that just shouldn't happen, really. And hopefully we can rectify that and go and get a win. But I want your prediction now. I want you to go and put down exactly what you think's going to happen. What are you saying?
I'm going to go with 2-1 Luton, so it'll be the same result as the other two fixtures.
Three defeats in one season for Everton against Luton. I think I've got to back us. I imagine that what will happen is, like you say, you'll be attacking us a lot. You have to be on the front four, but I think we're going to catch you out on the counter. And I think you might score against us purely because of how many men you're going to have to commit forward. I'm going to go with 3-1 to Everton. I think we'll just hit you on the break, full of confidence, Everton. McNeil back on form as well. And fingers crossed for us, we do that. That's what we want anyway. But before you go, mate, we're going to have some quick fire questions if that's all right.
Yeah, that's fine.
Right. So I want your Premier League winner. I want, where Luton are going to finish, your bottom three, and then I want your best and worst moment as a Luton fan.
So the Premier League winner, I hate to say it because it's so boring when they do it, but Man City just look like they're going to do it. They've put themselves into the best position, and the other two have slipped up. The next one, where we're going to finish.
Yeah.
I do think we can do it. I think we can do it. It's whether we do it. So I think it's going to be. I think we're just going to miss out on the final day, and we'll finish 18th.
Right. And then the bottom three, then who's that going to be? In what order?
I think the bottom three will be. It could either be. I think Burnley might stay up. So obviously Sheffield United bottom, and then either us or Forest, not 18th and 19th.
That's an interesting one, Burnley to say. That'd be a
I do.
miracle, wouldn't it?
I think they've just got so much momentum now. So if we go down, I want to take Forest with us.
With the points deduction as well. Hopefully they don't get
Yeah,
any back then. I'm sure you'll be thinking that.
yeah. If we have to go down, I want them coming down with us.
All right. And then best and worst moment ever as a Luton fan. I'm sure there's loads with the turmoil your club's been and then the highs as well.
Yeah. So the best moment for me, I mean, it has to be the playoff final. It's the first time I've ever shed a tear at the football. I've never been emotional like that at a game before, but when Dabo missed that penalty and it just erupted, and I just stood there and froze, and I couldn't believe it. That's the best moment for me.
Yeah.
Worst moment. If I'm going this season, I think the worst moment has got to be Bournemouth away, being
Really?
3-0 up at half time, and then just capitulating like that. You could see it was coming. After they scored one, there was just we actually could see the momentum shifted completely. So yeah, I think that has to be the worst moment this season. Then elsewhere, you could go any season
There's
on our
so
way
much has
down.
happened to you guys, hasn't it?
Yeah, on our way down, or even if you want something more recently, like losing against Huddersfield in the playoffs a few years ago, that was frustrating. I watched that from university as well. We were surrounded by Huddersfield fans in the pub. That
Really.
was really frustrating. So there's a few to pick from, but in recent history, it'd be those two.
There's been so many up and down moments for Luton over the years, hasn't it? I hope for you guys that you get a bit more stability. Hopefully, just as many good moments. But if you do go down, hopefully you can have that team that will stay together and then compete again to go back up within the next couple of years. But regardless, I think the season in the Premier League's definitely set you up well financially for the future, just purely from the TV money that's come from it as well.
Yeah, and our owners now, and obviously the board now, just would never put the club in a position where it could be endangered, like we've had previously. See, our CEO Gary Sweet has been winding a few Forest fans up with some of his comments, but he's a Luton fan himself, and he used to go to matches as a fan before he was part of the consortium that took it over. And you just know from everyone you know at the club, and it's never going to be in a position where it will just crumble like it has done before. But yeah, as you said, the money just sets us up for the long term, and actually we can probably finally get a stadium built that's a bit more modern. As much as I love Kenilworth Road, it's a bit outdated, and there's a significant demand for tickets to every game that people just aren't able to get tickets for. So no, we're just set up for the long term. But I would love to be able to stay up, just to be able to say we've done it. We've proved a lot of people wrong and stayed up, because at the start of the season and before a ball was kicked, I think every single pundit in the country backed us to go down. Most of them in last place.
Yeah, you've proved everyone wrong purely by still being in this fight, haven't you? Because you really have took the fight to teams. You've actually been yourselves as well and just gone for it in games and really showed that just pure belief in what you were doing. And I really respect that. And hopefully Luton can stay up. But thanks so much for coming on, Finley. You've been great today.
Absolute pleasure.
So go and check out Oak Road Hatter podcast, guys. If you want to hear the Luton perspective, I'm sure there'll be loads on the Everton game after it ends. You might want to listen if we win. Maybe not if we get beat, but fingers crossed we do win. Let us know in the comments. Do you think Everton can win? Or do you agree with Finley? Do you think we're going to get beat? Are we going to be on the beach? I hope not. But thank you very much for watching. See you later.